Story 1. First, I will pay off the debt, then take my family on a trip and finally buy a house to enjoy life. Story 2. Buy the small hotel where my wife and I stayed in Santorini, Greece. Keep the same staff and let them run it the way they always have. My wife and I would live at the hotel and let it make money for me while I watch the sun set over the volcanic caldera every night, sip local wine, and eat the freshest seafood I have ever had. Story 3. Probably just sit down briefly and decompress, honestly. Story 4. This kind of thing will cost all my luck. I can't imagine it. Story 5. I would hire a team of squirrels to help me count it. You can never have too many furry accountants. Story 6. I hope I can help children in need if I have enough money. Story 7. Start researching how to legally invest the money to avoid taxes. Having to pay 37% in taxes means it would be worth spending a few weeks investigating legal tax shelters. Tax bracket: 37%. Income tax: $3,682,890 federal income tax plus state income tax. I left off a zero in my calculation. I edited the comment to show around $4 million in federal and state income taxes. Story 8. I would ask, why are you so nice to me? Do you need something from me? Story 9. I am a lawyer and financial planner. I will probably buy a small luxury electric vehicle to zip around while I am searching for a new home. My current vehicle is too large to use when looking at properties. Story 10. Pay off my student debt, then take my mom shopping. Story 11. If I had $10, I would get some fucking food. Story 12. I would move out of my parents' place and also pay their mortgage. Story 13. Help a few people I know in Asia to give them a chance to build a better life. It would not cost much, maybe 100,000 in total. Story 14. I would buy many houses. With that amount of money, I could buy at least 30 houses in good areas and in good condition, then rent them out so I could live a luxury lifestyle solely on rental income. Story 15. Give 50% of the money to your parents and other family members. Use the remaining money to help the poor by donating it to a good cause. Story 16. Family needs come first, then mine. 1. Debt is slavery, so I would eliminate mine. 2. Focus on health because being rich is no fun if you are sick, both physically and mentally. 3. I would take some time off to enjoy life, a vacation in Europe. I have always wanted to do that. 4. After settling down, make time for social needs and community projects to help others. It is nice to dream about such things. It is sad to see people focus on wealth to the detriment of family and friends. I chose to forego a large salary to be around my family more, and that made me richer than anything in the bank. I often wondered how being super rich would have changed how my children grew up. Would they feel superior to others, or would they stay the same? I think wealth and power change people because no one is incorruptible. Story 17. 1. Pay off my debt. 2. Pay off the remainder of my father's mortgage. 3. Provide my younger sisters with the means to buy their own homes. 4. Buy a townhouse or a smaller single-family home. 5. Invest half of the remaining funds, including purchasing shares in my boss's company. Story 18. I will apply for citizenship in a country such as Australia, New Zealand, Finland, Norway, or Iceland. I will buy a plot of land there and build my dream home. Then I will disappear from humanity. Story 19. I will buy a house of my own first. Then I will go to work as usual and work hard. Story 20. Of course, the first thing is to buy a car and then a house to do what ordinary people want. I won't invest because I don't understand it. I don't want money coming and going. It's better to use the money to build a good house in the countryside. Story 21. First of all, half of the taxes are paid just like for any other employee in Germany. Story 22. Start college funds for my children. Pay off debts and put the rest into savings. Story 23. Buy a house, buy a car, pay off debts, buy another house for my parents, buy property to invest or rent, invest some of the money and save the rest. If I have more, maybe start a business. Story 24. Buy 3 to 4 rental properties. Hire a property management team. Retire. Story 25. Invest. Give a lot to my family. Travel the world. And use the rest to finally live out my childhood dream of owning a zoo and a pet penguin named Sir Wattlesworth. Story 26. Get all of my friends and family out of debt. Retire if there is enough left. Story 27. Take a solo trip to the nicest resort somewhere in Mexico. Story 28. Offer someone $10 million, but if I can say the word they are thinking of, they will explode. Story 29. I quit my job. I enjoyed my coworkers, but goodbye, Felicia. Story 30. Pay my rent. Pay off all my bills from being unemployed for a year. Keep my part-time job so I can travel the world with my kids. Story 31. My usual answer when this question is asked weekly is to buy Bitcoin. Story 32. I would question everything because every time something good happens to me, something really bad seems to be lurking around. Story 33. The first thing I would do is turn it into $20 million. It will take a few years, but my track record says I can do it. Story 34. Invest $9 million of it with the hope of living off the dividends in a few years and never eating into the principal. Story 35. Contact a financial advisor. Move to a country with no wealth tax. Invest 8 million euros, likely a substantial portion in the Standard & Poor's 500 index. Arrange your finances to be secure for life. Story 36. Go live somewhere remote so I don't have to deal with other people. People can be difficult. Story 37. Invest in a hazelnut farm crewed by red squirrels and managed by red pandas. It will probably be a shell company for investments in other nuts. Story 38. Hire a financial advisor. Pay off debts. Invest most of the money. Give some lump sum gifts to friends and family. Move to a more remote area near Toronto with more space for my dog. Get a few more dogs. Replace my entire wardrobe with 10 pieces of all black clothing. I cannot afford to throw away clothes now. Sell all my watches and buy one replacement watch. Replace the 2 cars at home with Toyota Sequoias. Quit work and take my dogs and my brothers hiking all the time. Story 39. I want my parents to finally retire, so I will buy them a nice apartment. I do not need anything flashy for myself. Story 40. I would buy a home in a low cost of living place, such as the Mexican Riviera or Thailand, put the rest into my investment account, and enjoy early retirement. I would keep my current house and rent it out. Story 41. Easy. Invest it in a well-diversified portfolio. Withdraw 3% per year, and watch it grow as my focus shifts to helping my loved ones and investing in my community with needed services and businesses. Ikigai all day, every day. Story 42. Pay off all family debts. Have reconstructive foot surgery so I can overcome a major disability. Buy a modest home with a garden and a pool. Buy a Tiffany Blue C8 Corvette. Place the remaining approximately $9.4 million in a high-yield savings account. Live off the interest using the 4% rule. Story 43. I would set aside the money, use some to buy a house and a car, and invest the rest or start a private business. Story 44. Contact the lawyer for my ex-wife to see if I can get the other one back. Story 45. I would invest half of it in low-risk mutual funds and give the other half to my friend Asajula, who works in securities. Story 46. I'd say pay off debts, but I just enjoy a night out and celebrate. It is certainly worth celebrating because it drastically improves quality of life and opens many more options for moving forward. Story 47. Hire a lawyer, an accountant, and a housekeeper in that order. Story 48. Start a chain of not-for-profit, small-scale, long-term care homes. This is my dream. Residents in each house would have different abilities so they could help one another. Staff would visit all homes daily to monitor and assist. I would use the Eden approach, integrating gardening. It reduces cortisol and blood pressure, lowers blood glucose levels, and improves nutrition and mobility. Story 49. Pay off my remaining debt and my lease balance. After that, I would probably take a nice vacation. Story 50. Get a nice sushi lunch and a steak dinner. Then change nothing and tell no one. Get a lawyer and an accountant. With their expert advice, start making moves. Story 51. Go off the grid and travel for a while. I would probably keep working to keep my mind occupied until I found something else to do. Assuming they would allow fully remote work, I think that could work. Story 52. I would not do much for a while. I would probably eat the same meals and get an iced coffee. I would talk to a tax attorney and would not quit work until all the paperwork is in place. I would move to a house near my family until school ends. Story 53. Pay off every debt I owe, including school loans. After that, I would finish school. I would get the tattoos I want. The rest is up in the air. I want a tiny home, a folding house, or a mansion-style recreational vehicle. I would not drive it, and I do not need much space. However, that would have to wait until my animals pass away, because I could not reduce the space available for them. Story 54. Hunt the original poster down and beat them up for asking one of the same stupid questions that gets asked every 2 weeks. Story 55. Pay the moderators on this site to ban users and automated accounts that repeatedly ask this question. Story 56. Park the money somewhere for a while and avoid touching the interest. Give part of it to several different places, such as charities or to endow a scholarship and so on. Wait at least a few months before making a sizable purchase so you are clear-headed. Story 57. Buy my son and grandchildren a home. Give the children in the hospital a Christmas to remember. If anything is left, spend it on me. If not, at least I know I made people happy. Story 58. Pay off debts and your mortgage. Set aside an emergency fund. Put the remaining funds into retirement savings accounts. Story 59. I would patiently wait until it hits my bank account, then check every 2 to 3 hours for about 36 hours. Then I don't know. I would probably act normal for about a week while I decide how best to pay off my debts and my family's debts. Story 61. Hire a lawyer. 2. Consult a financial advisor. 3. Resign from your job. 4. Hire an accountant. 5. Hire an auditor. Story 61. Before I quit my job, get a lawyer, buy a 2-bedroom house on my property, or purchase a new or used car. I'd cry like a little bitch. Story 62. The first 2 things I would do are pay off all my debt and buy a luxury car. I would probably choose an Audi or a Bentley. Story 63. Buy land, an excavator, and a skid steer, then start building. Story 64. I would pay off my mortgage and the cars. I would fulfill my agreement with my brother. If we ever won the lottery, I would give him a fair share. I have discussed this with my family. The plan is 40% to me, 40% to my brother, and 20% to my mother. With the remaining 4 million, I would ask my wife what she wants to do. Story 65. Hire people to manage the money. Seriously, without them you're dead. Story 66. Invest in real estate, travel extensively, help people in my small town who are in need, and start a small company to grow into a successful business. Story 67. Pay off debts. Then check each family member's health thoroughly. Story 68. Show up at work the next day as if nothing happened. Figure out the rest later. Story 69. Pay off our mortgage immediately. Buy 2 new cars, a Volkswagen T7 and another small fun car. Invest the rest of the money as safely as possible. Reduce working hours to 20 a week or so. Story 70. I would keep enough to buy myself a small 100 square meter house and spend the rest on childhood cancer research. Story 71. Put all the money in a bank that pays 5% interest, work for 2 years while the interest accrues, then live solely on the annual interest. After that, travel the world. Story 72. Hire a reputable professional to inform me about gift taxes where I live. Story 73. Pay off my mother's mortgage. Delete all social media accounts. Give a few close people my new phone number. Move. Story 74. Buy a small piece of land and a horse, which I could get for less than $500,000. I would keep up to $2 million to make sure I can take care of any animals I own. I would probably start an animal sanctuary and rehabilitation center. or alternatively donate the $8 million to an already established one. Story 75. Pay off debt, pay off my mom and dad's house, and buy a high-rise condo right in the middle of the city with floor-to-ceiling windows. I wouldn't quit my job right away. I would wait for the day they really piss me off and quit on the spot, mumbling, "I'm done. Fuck this job," while simultaneously laughing inside. I love the dramatics. Then I'm just going to enjoy life. Story 76. I weep with absolute joy and relief at finally being able to shed the crushing weight of endless expenses supporting my family. Story 77. Become a full-time lazy bum instead of the part-time lazy bum that I am. Story 78. I lie down and close my eyes for a full 60 minutes. I mentally release all repressed stress and embrace the fact that I no longer have to work for anyone ever again. My life is now a blank canvas, and I can paint whatever picture I choose. Story 79. $5 million for housing and renovations before moving in. $2.5 million in investments. Leave the remainder for any unforeseen expenses. Story 80. I would probably visit a financial planner, settle the family more comfortably in a home, and save the rest for college or for a rainy day. One good vacation. Story 81. Buy a big house for me, my brother, his girlfriend, and my parents. Pay off the house immediately. Give the rest of the money to my dad. Continue to play video games and eat pizza. Work at a performance tuning and car modification shop with only high-performance cars because that is my hobby. Die of old age. Story 82. Do not tell anyone except those for whom it is absolutely necessary. Story 83. Get my best friend from work to quit and join me. Buy 2 trucks, trailers, and several pieces of yard equipment. We would travel around doing yard work and maintenance for people in need until I ran out of money or could no longer physically continue. Story 84. Do not be polite in an email to people who do not deserve it, especially when you are in a weaker position. I am so done with some people. Story 85. I would put $10 million toward what I owe and refinance the rest at a lower rate. Story 86. Secure the funds. Allocate them for savings, investing, and recreation. Story 87. Pay off veterinarian bills for my community. Then buy some elotes. Story 88. Probably go out and buy a brand new Nissan GTR and drive around looking for a new house, laughing out loud. Story 89. The exact sum of money at which I would quietly quit my job and enjoy a simple life. I would not tell a soul. Story 90. Celebrate with 2 Costco hot dogs and a rotisserie chicken. Story 91. Move somewhere warm. Tell no one where the money came from. Probably pretend nothing changed, to be honest. Story 92. Buy a few items, such as a knife, a laptop, a smartphone, and a motorcycle and travel the world. Invest 99% of the money. Story 93. Finish my current work projects. Plan a vacation to decide where I want to live, and buy some toys. Story 94. Rub one out. Cannot make decisions that big on a loaded gun. Story 95. Get much-needed dental work. It is wild that teeth are now a luxury. Story 96. I will probably start another Warhammer army and wonder where the 10 million went while paying off my debt after buying my Warlord Titan. Story 97. The first thing I would do is ensure the money was invested in an index fund. Then I would try not to do anything too fancy, maybe have a few nice meals out for a month or so to decide what I wanted to do. I probably would not even quit my job. God, I am sad. Story 98. I would ask my bank to invest 70%, keep $3 million to buy a decent house and reliable transportation, invest a few $100,000 in stocks and live stress-free. Story 99. Buy advertising time on local television and tell everyone to lick my hairy taint. Buy houses and other nice things for my mother and sisters. Secretly purchase a kidney, hire a sex worker, and arrange for the sex worker to receive a kidney, just for fun. Story 100. Buy a house, keep some cash liquid to enjoy a few luxuries such as a vacation, a nice car, and new clothes, and to have a rainy day fund. Then invest the other $8.5 million. Story 101. Scream yes. 2. Give up work. 3. Go on holiday for 2 weeks to relax and think. Story 102. Spend 40% on a few properties in different strategic locations to rent out. 30% of the rental income will be channeled to an educational charity. Spend 30% on shares and investments. Spend 20% on a fully paid personal home. Set aside 5% for emergencies. Allocate 5% to learn a new language, acquire new skills, and enjoy an overseas holiday. Story 103. Well, if it happened right this second, I'd clock out and go home. Story 104. New vehicles for my wife and me. Maybe purchase a few planned items I would be getting now instead of later. After that, funds would go into retirement savings. Story 105. Get right with the Internal Revenue Service. They are not like the mob in that they will come after your family if they cannot get you. Buy and move to a larger piece of land with no neighbors and invest the rest. Story 106. I will pay off my family's debt, save as much as possible, and consult a financial advisor to make sure it lasts. I will likely return to school for business or finance to ensure my continued success and ability to support my loved ones. Story 107. I would probably move somewhere else and keep doing whatever I am doing. Story 108. I'll use what I need, put back a small but decent amount for security, and donate the rest. I see what money does to people and I'm fine with my life as it is. Story 109. Dude, I even failed to plug in the universal serial bus after 2 tries. Who do you think I am, winning 10 million all of a sudden? Story 110. I bought as many appliances as I could store in a warehouse for people in Western North Carolina. When they begin rebuilding, they can obtain the appliances at a reduced price covered by insurance or grant funds. Story 111. I would buy a mid-size SUV or a minivan, pack essentials, and load my dogs into the vehicle. Then I would go on a cross-country trip to eat tacos at different places and enjoy time with them. Story 112. Quit my job, take a vacation, reflect on life, and consider returning to school. Story 113. I need some me time to gain post-nut clarity before making any decisions after finding out I have won 10 million. Story 114. Month-long vacation. After relaxing for about a week, start planning what to do with the rest. I'll be responsible, but damned if I'm not doing it on a beach or at an all-inclusive resort. Story 115. Invest $3 million in index funds and securities, buy a house, and take a year-long vacation. Story 116. Cancel every business project I have. Just return the cost. Then do nothing until I either spend money or want to die earlier. Story 117. Invest it in a combination of index funds and bonds, and continue living my current life. Story 118. I would ghost my family, pay for a few nights with Gianna Michaels, and buy a nice property somewhere it snows. Story 119. Either put my mother in assisted living so she can get the help she needs and be around other people, or hire nurses to assist her for 16 hours a day. I am exhausted from doing this for 5 years now, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. This is the kind of exhaustion that sleep cannot fix. I am always irritable, and I just want to rest without constantly worrying about her falling or having problems because of her Parkinson's disease. I would make sure she is taken care of and take a month off. No cell phone, no electronics at all. Just a cabin in the woods somewhere. Story 120. I am currently homeless, without a car, and in debt. First, I would pay off my debts, buy a car, and then purchase a home with plenty of land for a garden and small-scale farming. I would take my family on a 1-week trip to enjoy time together, since we have all been through so much and deserve some joy. I would cover care from a good oncologist for my mother, who is fighting cancer, and then invest in real estate to generate ongoing income. I would save the remainder while exploring responsible ways to grow my savings. Story 121. At my age, that is ability money. I would be able to retire early and spend my days focused on what I really want to do. There would be some selfish things like travel, but I would also look at how to spend my time doing something of value for my community. The first priority would be to free up the time to retire. Story 122. Buy a house, invest the remainder in perpetual bonds, and build a stock portfolio using the coupon payments. Story 123. I would not tell it to anyone. I would hire a financial advisor. I would go to a private clinic for a medical checkup, then see a dentist to restore my teeth. After that, I would hire a personal trainer to teach me how to eat and live healthily and to help me work out. Finally, I would see a psychologist to work on my mental health. Altogether, it would take years and at least $500,000. Afterward, I would move to a new place and learn a new profession I enjoy. Maybe I would become a pilot, but I would hide my wealth and live under the radar. Story 124. Tell no one. Repay my debts and loans. Hold the money for at least 6 months to let myself cool down. Maintain the same lifestyle as long as it is comfortable. Do not quit my job. Do not buy luxury items. Do not buy expensive items for friends and family. Do not invest in friends or relatives' businesses. Invest in my health as I want to enjoy the newfound money for a while. Learn about money and investment strategies. Find a highly regarded financial advisor. Invest wisely and live off the investment income. Do not create new debt by buying an extravagant house. Story 125. Hire someone to advise me on which bank account to put the money into to earn the best interest so I can live on it. On the safe side, that is probably $100,000 a year doing nothing. Story 126. Have the first good night's sleep in a very long time. Is the $10 million after taxes? Buy homes for my adult children and place funds in trusts to cover house expenses. Invest in income-producing assets, including rental properties. Install a new engine and transmission in my adult children's 1963 American Motors Rambler so we can drive it again. Buy the cats a massive 2-story outdoor catio and yard run, and a lifetime supply of catnip. Buy a recreational vehicle with all the bells and whistles and travel to see friends and relatives. Remodel our current home inside and out. New roof, new landscaping, install an elevator, and more. Story 127. Call my broker. Invest $7,100,000. Put the rest in a high-interest savings account. Finish school and pass the bar examination. Figure out what to do with the remaining money before I start my articles of clerkship in August. I will likely buy a house, but I will not have time for that until after the bar examination. Story 128. Pay off your significant other's student loans, then buy a house. Travel and enjoy life frugally. Story 129. Go on an extravagant vacation with copious amounts of drugs and luxury escorts, and probably die. Story 130. Call my mom and ask her to send me the Zillow listing for her dream house. A few days later, mail her the keys. Story 131. Hire someone to invest the money for a percentage of the profits and live off the interest. Give the accountant large bonuses for high earnings. Story 132. Pay off any debt, buy a house, install solar tiles, and then invest the rest wisely. Story 133. Pay off your debts. Buy a rental property. Collect passive income. Succeed. Story 134. Invest almost all of it. Do something nice for the family. That is it. Nothing crazy. Story 135. Find an appropriate investment vehicle that will provide me with the same salary and benefits I receive now for the rest of my life so I can quit my day job. Story 136. Pay off the house, set up a college fund for my children and my friends' children, then have someone more financially knowledgeable manage the investments so I do not have to work again and receive an allowance to avoid accidentally losing it all. Story 137. Hire an accountant. That seems like the best move if I don't want to either ruin myself through overindulgence or go broke within a couple of years. I'm sorry you're feeling so overwhelmed. It sounds like you are worried about finances and how they might affect your well-being. If you are thinking about harming yourself or feel you might act on those thoughts, please call your local emergency number now. If you are in the United States, you can call or text 988 to reach the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. If you are elsewhere, please contact your country's emergency services or a local crisis line. Can you tell someone you trust how you're feeling, such as a friend, family member, or a healthcare professional? If you want, I can help you find local resources, draft a message to someone you trust, or suggest grounding and breathing techniques to try right now. Story 138. Pay off all debts, sell my house and buy one I love. Buy a new car and go on vacation. I would keep my job because I need a purpose, but there would be no stress since I could quit at any time. Story 139. I would buy a better car to avoid stressing every time I have to drive, get new clothes for my daughter and me, and stock the kitchen with groceries. Story 140. Pay off the debts for my younger brother and me. Take a 12-month trip around the world to visit every place I have always wanted to see, staying in modest hotels and accommodations. Start a business in a field I am passionate about, likely with my brother because he shares my interests. Give $1 million to my brother and invest the remaining funds, and when my brother and I retire, give him 50% of the investment earnings. Story 141. Give half to my wife and set up my own accounts in preparation for becoming single. After nearly 30 years of marriage, I am over it. Marriage is overrated. Story 142. I would be ready to give $4 million to the government as taxes. Story 143. I have no debt, and both our cars are practical, relatively new, and paid off. I would buy a modest house, retire my wife and me, and invest the money. That would allow me to spend the most time with my family, which is my source of true happiness. Story 144. Create a $500,000 trust fund for my children, $250,000 apiece. They will not receive the money until they turn 21 years old. There will be clauses they must satisfy before receiving the first payment. It is for their protection and well-being. Others may try to take it from them. Story 145. I want to marry my girlfriend, buy a house, and invest my money wisely. Story 146. Begin my quiet retreat from society. Have you looked around lately? Story 147. Pay off all my debts, secure a full-time advocate for my special needs son, buy a new home, and open 12 one-year certificates of deposit at $250,000 each. The idea of having $3,000 a month in self-sustaining income to play with is pretty cool. Story 148. I wouldn't do anything with it. I would save it to get more money. Story 149. Buy and pay in full 3 or 4 homes, maintain them as needed, and rent them out. If I can pocket $5,000 per month in passive income doing this and save the remaining $5 million in various savings and investment accounts, I would be pretty content. Story 150. Move to Africa and become a billionaire. Consider starting a film industry there. Story 151. Leave the country, disappear for a while, and travel the world for a year, maybe. Story 152. Pay off my house, my siblings' houses, and buy houses for my children. Then disappear. Just kidding. I will probably travel. Story 153. I will pay off my mortgage, invest, buy a sailboat, and retire. Then I will develop a project for people in need. Story 154. Double it and give it to the next person. No, I will go to a casino and lose it all. Story 155. Put 98% of it into a high-yield savings account and pay off the debts of my closest friends anonymously with the other 2%. My debts can come after that. Story 156. Pay off debt and give some to my parents, as they are elderly and struggling. Buy a house and save money for my daughter's schooling. Invest so I do not return to a position where I was struggling. Then take a vacation. Story 157. Ask about the origins of funds. Sorry, I worked at a bank for 10 years. Story 158. Pay for the medical treatments both my wife and son need that insurance will not cover. Get our 15-year-old dog the surgery she needs. Get our car fixed and look into the surgeries I need. Story 159. I will pay off my debts, my family's debts, and my friends' debts. Then the fun part begins. I will build a completely off-grid house with multiple power sources. At the edge of my property, I will have a substation that supplies a fiber optic connection to a private hub. I will build a large library, a gym, and an observatory. I will arrange weekly grocery deliveries to my house. I will install an elaborate security system that monitors my property around the clock. I will invest $5 million. I will live a fulfilling life. Story 160. I would walk into my manager's office, Say fuck you, then go back to work and see how long it takes him to get up off his big fat lazy ass and fire me that day. Story 161. 1. Pay off my mortgage $99,000. $9.9 million remaining. 2. Pay off my truck and my wife's car, $25,000. $9.875 million remaining. 3. Pay off my mother's house, $60,000. $9.815 million remaining. 4. Set aside $1 million for each kid for college and life, total $4 million. $5.815 million remaining. 5. Fix up my 120-year-old house to the best available condition. It needs electrical, foundation, and cosmetic repairs, $200,000. $5.62 million remaining. 6. Invest roughly $2 million into my retirement fund. $3.62 million remaining. 7. Take the family to Ireland and the United Kingdom for a 2-week vacation, $12,000. $3.5 million remaining. Spend or save the rest on miscellaneous items. Bills and Sabres tickets, a new truck or car, a camper or motorhome, an in-ground pool with a hot tub, and possibly donate $500,000 to my work to buy new equipment and trucks. Story 162. Pay off credit card debt, invest in a few stocks, buy a nice condo in San Diego, and save the rest. I want the satisfaction of being able to say I earned a lot of money. Simply receiving it would do nothing for me mentally. Story 163. Open a rescue for all animals, regardless of age or condition. Hire full-time veterinarians to provide free or low-cost services. Live happily ever after. Story 164. Invest 80% in high-dividend exchange-traded funds, and use the remaining 20% to upgrade the quality of life for my family. Story 165. Invest 90% of it, live comfortably, and build generational wealth. Story 166. Finish school and pay off my debts. Buy a house. Take a year off for surgery to repair my joints. Then live life. Story 167. Pay off some debt and make long-term investments with the rest. I say some because it would be unwise to pay off 2 mortgages that have 2.7% interest rates when I can earn more than that from investments. Also, hire sex workers. Story 168. I would buy each of my children a house in the city of their choice. Story 169. Offshore accounts. If that becomes reality, hide. Carry on as normal. Diversify. Donate to some charities. The only thing they would notice is that I got a new car. Story 170. I would hand out beer and donuts at work and never be seen again. Story 171. I will invest some of the money, save some, and use the rest to work on my science projects. Story 172. Invest it all in exchange-traded funds, except for enough to pay off my credit card debts. Story 173. I would pay off family mortgages on the condition that they transfer the land to me. I am the only person in the family with strong financial skills, but they can do what they want with the property. Then I would place $6 million in a diversified portfolio that generates interest. I should have roughly $2 to $2.5 million remaining, which I would use to start my nonprofit. I would use the interest from the $6 million to fund small business ventures in multiple locations. Story 174. Pay off debts. Take care of a few purchases we have been postponing, mostly home repairs, and then start looking for a 1-story house in this area where we can add a second master suite and a basement for office and craft space. Story 175. Pay off debts, including credit card, car, and home mortgage. Then book a serious vacation. Story 176. Buy a nice house for about $2 to $2.5 million. Take $1 million for fun expenses such as cars and clothes, and invest $7 million in stocks, real estate, and startup companies. Story 177. Consult a lawyer at a large firm who is experienced in handling large sums. Have the funds legally shielded through a trust, a limited liability company, or another structure, and name myself the beneficiary. I plan to live quietly on the passive income. This remains between me and the legal representative. My parents are not fools. They will eventually ask me bluntly where I got the money. I would smile and say that I have just been very fortunate. Story 178. Give a lot of it to friends and family. I always felt bad for people who win lotteries and don't give anything to anyone. It's pathetic. It's incredible luck and you don't deserve it. Be humble and give some to people who struggle and need it more than you do. It doesn't mean you should give it all, though. You don't need 10 million to do everything you want to do. Story 179. 1. Resign from my job. 2. Give money to my mother and my brother. 3. Buy a new car. 4. Take a 2-week vacation abroad. 5. Buy a new house. 6. Invest. 7. Start a business. Story 180. Tell my family I love them. After that, verify that it is real. Resign from my job with 2 months' notice. Leaving at the end of the year. $1 million to pay off the house, remodel the bathroom, pay debts, fix cars, and cover other ordinary expenses. $1 million to buy another home. $1 million for an investment property. $2 million in gold, silver, and a small amount of Bitcoin. $5 million invested. Half in dividend-paying stocks and half in broad market funds. Half of everything listed would be in my children's names from the start. Story 181. Moving somewhere quieter and living off investments and interest. Story 182. Take care of all my health problems that cannot be fixed with inexpensive medication. Story 183. If it were tax-free, I would put half into a trust for my friends and family to use for housing, college, or medical expenses. Then I would disappear for 1 to 2 years and figure out the meaning of my life. Story 184. If I were given $10 million, the first thing I would do is invest a portion to secure my future. I would use part of it to support my family and help my community. I would set aside money for travel and experiences I have always dreamed of, including a trip to Singapore with my girlfriend. Story 185. Probably a nap. I think that surprise would be truly exhausting. Story 186. Go debt-free, invest the rest in Bitcoin, and reduce work to part-time. Travel to a remote Indonesian island with my wife for 2 weeks of fishing, sushi, coconuts, rum, cannabis, and sex on the beach. Story 187. Pay off my student loans, buy a house and set it up. Take my family and friends on separate vacations on different days. Invest the rest and live a frugal life afterward. I could probably live off $9 million invested in the Standard & Poor's 500 index. Story 188. Take care of expenses. Keep 5% and give the rest to my loved one. Story 189. Just invest it. I do not need it, so I will let the interest buy me fun things and keep living my happy life as it is. I might also look more closely at philanthropy and hire a good, sophisticated tax accountant. Story 190. Pay off my mortgage and build my own indoor basketball court. Story 191. Give it to the moderators of the AskReddit subreddit so they can ban this question. Story 192. Ditch my cell phone, get a burner phone, hire a lawyer on retainer, and consult a financial advisor. Story 193. I would invest half of it in low-risk mutual funds and give the other half to my friend Asajala, who works in securities. Story 194. Find a really trustworthy investment banker. Then shut down every social media outlet connected to it. That might be first. Story 195. Invest everything and move on with my life. Allocate about 35% to real estate for rent. Allocate about 50% to a stock market and cryptocurrency portfolio. Allocate about 10% to education. Keep 5% on hand. Switch to a part-time job. Try to start my own business or focus on a creative outlet. Story 196. Set aside the 24% federal taxes plus marginal tax in a high-yield savings account, leaving about $6.3 million. Set aside 10%, $630,000, in a high-yield savings account for emergencies. Max out individual retirement account and Roth individual retirement account contributions and invest in Vanguard S&P 500 ETF, VOO, NVIDIA Corporation, NVDA, and HWKN. Donate 2%, $126,000, and invest 3%, $189,000, in a U.S. floating rate treasury fund, USFR, and donate the dividends. Allocate 3%, $189,000, to a Section 529 education savings account. Allocate 2%, $126,000, to my checking account. Place 5%, $315,000, into a high-yield savings account for gifts. Reserve 1%, $63,000, for a family vacation and place the remainder into a high-yield savings account for future family outings. Place the remaining funds into a traditional brokerage account for Vanguard S&P 500 ETF, VOO, NVIDIA Corporation, NVDA, and other dividend kings and plan to live off the dividends. Story 197. Pay off all debts, including my husband's. Buy a new car because mine is wearing out. Invest, set up funds for my siblings and help my parents. Story 198. I would allocate some money for the medical treatment of my best friend's ill mother. Because my friend works 2 jobs and is struggling to cope, this would help her focus on supporting her family during this difficult time. Story 199. Give my parents $9 million so they can retire and live comfortably. Story 200. Put it all into a high-yield savings account at 5%. That is $500,000 a year in interest, which I can live off. Story 201. Buy a new Class C 29-foot recreational vehicle, hit the road with my wife and dogs, and travel the Americas. Story 202. I would be able to fully pay for my schooling and living expenses without having to worry about loans. I would pay off my mother's car and buy my sister a new car and a house. Story 203. Pay my bills and buy tickets to finally visit my family. They live in another country, and I have been in the United States since 2019. Story 204. Please accept this as my 1-week notice of resignation. I will complete any necessary tasks during this week and will not be available afterward. Story 205. I would not tell anyone except my girlfriend. I would quietly put in my 2 weeks' notice. I would retire my friends and pay for their and our health care. I would buy a house and go back to school. Story 206. Buy a moderately sized house with at least 50 acres and 100 no trespassing signs. Story 207. 1. I would sit down with my lawyer and my accountant. Let us say I keep 9 million of those 10 million by using tax haven countries. 2. Sell my house for 1 million and invest the entire 10 million in a diversified portfolio, with about 80% in the S&P 500 index. 3. According to the Trinity study, I can withdraw about 5% of those funds per year and not run out of money. I would use 3.5% per year to be safer. 4. I would have $350,000 per year for free, increasing with inflation, for the rest of my life. I could spend $350,000 a year, $30,000 per month, doing whatever I want. I would not own a house anymore because it would anchor me. I could live in short-term rentals or rent for 1 to 5 years where I want to live. 5. At the end of my life, I would still have significantly more than 10 million. In present value, I would have closer to 30 million because I only withdrew 3.5% per year. I could leave that to my 2 children so they could do the same. Story 208. Retirement fund security. Home renovation. Travel fund. Random acts of kindness once stabilized and comfortable. Story 209. Buy an intercontinental ballistic missile and launch it at Epstein Island. Fuck you, National Security Agency. I'm already on 6 lists. Story 210. I had better put some pants on first before I make any decisions. Story 211. Tell my wife she can quit her job and I will quit mine. We can either open a restaurant or I can start teaching so I have a job I love. I would also buy us a house and go on a remarkable vacation before investing wisely and hiring a money manager and a lawyer. Story 212. A series of steps will follow once the funds are verified and the legal and tax responsibilities are understood. Then they may seem to happen at once. Story 213. Build a life away from humans. They can be fucking insufferable. Story 214. Invest $8.5 million into 2 accounts for my wife and me. Put $1 million into an appreciating trust for our child. Use the remaining $500,000 to pay bills and outstanding debts. Then purchase a home either outright or with an 85% down payment. Return to work on Monday as if nothing has changed. Story 215. I will probably look around for the perfect house to live in for the rest of my life. Story 216. I would pay off my debt, give some money to my parents, go on a shopping spree for new clothes, travel, and then put the rest aside as savings. However, I would not quit my job. Story 217. Immediately book one of those luxury holidays that do not seem to be advertised. Story 218. You are all really ill-mannered. The first thing you should do when you receive $10 million is thank the person who gave it to you. Story 219. Most important, do not tell anyone. Pay off debt. Then keep one liquid million for fun and travel and to help family only if absolutely needed. Keep the money a secret. Use that million, spaced out over time, to buy a normal but nice house, purchase a reliable car for my wife and me, and set aside funds to discreetly help my children with major life events such as getting a car or getting married. I will not pay for their life events outright, but I want to be able to help them discreetly. Invest $5 million divided among short, medium, and long-term investments. Put away $2 million for each child for $1 million total as an emergency or trust fund they do not know about. I do not know exactly how this would work in practice, but on paper I like the idea. I will retire from the military in about 18 months. I will complete my career, then find a job I enjoy, partly to maintain my cover and partly to keep my sanity, while focusing on travel and living life with my family. Story 220. Invest it in real estate. Live off the money it generates. Story 221. Pay a nerd to remove all traces of my online presence. Then I would move to the Azores. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.